So when I was 12 years old, we landed in New Zealand, Auckland, New Zealand. I remember this day like yesterday. And so if you have any idea, or if you have lived in New Zealand or even Australia, there's some similarities. But I lived there for a good 5 years. And at the age of 17, we came to America in a very blood-stained way, and I referenced this in other videos. It wasn't ideal circumstances, but we got here, right? So, but I remember growing up, the schooling system back in the day was night and day versus what we have today in modern day society and culture. The schooling system back in the English, system, the UK, I think some of that was adopted by the New Zealand, Australian cultural segments and education systems. That would be looked at today as toxic masculinity, which is absolutely garbage. You know, there's if we're going to identify masculinity as toxic and everything that men do is toxic, we can go many ways and in many different directions, and rekindle the gender wars, right, and the hate, the disdain. But that's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to show you is angle it and position this discussion and this topic that it is because of those early childhood days and doing the difficult things when you don't even feel like doing it as a kid, and those things are really scary. It imprints you for a lifetime. And I thank my father for putting us through that school. And mind you, back in the day, it's really windy, so I'm hoping this translates well enough for you to hear it. But back in that time, the boys and the girls were not allowed to school together, meaning that it was set up. They followed a private schooling style system, but it was not really private. Boys on one side, school, and girls on the other side, school, if that makes sense. So at that time, this was in the late 80s, I believe, or yeah, late 80s. At that time, racism was out of control, especially against us brown people, as East Asians, Indians, the minorities, right? It was rampant. And when we moved from the Fiji Islands, where I was born, there was a national coup there. Basically, the military took over back in the late 80s, 87, 88, 89-ish. That led us to flee the country in a rightful way. And my father had landed this amazing job and sponsor in New Zealand. And that's how, fast forward, we landed there. So we got out at the right time. Today, I hear back home, it's really different. Things are really chilled out. Of course, we're looking at this like 30 years later, right, or something. That reveals my age, right? So, 49 years old, here I am. I've lived this long to tell that story, and never thought I'd be doing YouTube. I am doing YouTube. Never thought I would start this channel 1 year ago. I started this channel 1 year ago, and I'm telling you the story. And I didn't intend to tell this story this morning, although it was there in my notes and subconscious mind. The words are just coming free flow, and I figured I would just let it fly today. So that school, as a innocent little boy, I was really scrawny. We used to have to wear uniforms to school, like specifically branded uniforms. Think British, right? You see those school systems with the scarf, the collar, the vest, like pristine, socks, garters pulled to your knee. Shoes have to be nice and clean. So this is all part of the disciplining process, right? I was very active. I was in the cricket team. I played soccer. I played hockey. A lot of endurance sports. And through the racism that was rampant back in the day, I got into many fights, many brawls with Caucasian brothers who are actually not bad people. I'm not racist at all. I love all races, but it was that particular race that really picked on us, right? And we were just very small built people, scrawny, and we weren't blessed with genetics, and so we would be easy targets. And I was very timid. you know Now when I look back and recollect my stories and my childhood, which has a lot to do with your upbringing, has a lot to do with your later parts of life, like PTSD. And I talk about my toxic mother a lot. She obviously didn't play any role in my growth, and all negative reinforcements. That's her. My father was the polar opposite. He carried the household in the most masculine way possible, but unfortunately succumbed to my mother's toxic, narcissistic behaviors. And I tried doing this video before yesterday. There was a lot of anger, there was a lot of spite, and I'm not trying to translate that and have that echo. I wasn't saying it right yesterday, and my energy was off yesterday, so I deleted that video. I was just really angry. So in this video, I'm just a little bit more articulate in telling you the story. So it's all setting the stage as some of you may embark on my earlier videos. And I just did a video about Parkinson's that my father battled and a toxic mother. You can check that out. There's details in all of my videos, essentially, that I'm giving out these gems, right? So I got into a lot of fights. Eventually, I teamed up with Vietnamese brothers, and it turns out that we were that nationality, that ethnicity, Asians and Indians. We were faced with a lot of hate because we would excel in school, we would work really hard, and we would get decent grades. I didn't really get that much of a decent grade, but it somehow was a little bit better than the average, and I was average. Later on, I think at 16, 17, I really hit a stride and started acing a lot of things, and that's when my life ended over there abruptly, thanks to my, holier than thou mother. Um, and I want to highlight this one aspect living in New Zealand and going to school there, is that I remember as a boy, right, when my father would drop me off to school, I would almost like hang on to him. He was so emotionally connected to us and had our best interests, that the sense of security and the warmth I found was always my father. And I would watch his hand on the steering wheel. I would watch him shift the gears and stressing about money and smoking a cigarette. And I used to watch his fingers. And this is a little bit before when the onset of Parkinson's started happening. But I remember New Zealand was always cold, kind of muggy sometimes. It's a beautiful country, by the way. But as a boy, you're in a new country. You're changing schools in your teenage years. That's tough. Let alone changing schools. You're in a brand new country. I didn't even know what to expect. It was so much of a culture shock, and it was painful. So I had to figure out a lot of these things. Psychologically, it took a toll on me. Right? I was a loner. I had a difficult time making friends. I was scared. I was naive. Puberty was happening. So you throw all of these things here. There's a lot of confusion. But when my father would drop me off to school, and my other brother and two brothers, but I got the brunt of it because I was older and I was experiencing a lot of things because of puberty, right? But we would go dressed in our uniform, like buttoned to the T. But when we get to the school, one of the first classes we used to have in the morning was PE class, physical education. And I thought it was like, okay, cricket, soccer, rugby, some of the British sports, right? I got the biggest shock of my life that once or twice a week, this PE class would entail jumping into the cold water. Like there used to be a swimming pool. And we would strip our clothes off, of course, have our underwear, and we would all have to jump into that pool, and that's how our day would start. And mind you, this is during winter time. This is during winter time, folks. So we would jump in. If we weren't jumping in, the coaches would gaslight the students to pick on each other. Like he's a little bee. He's a punk, right? He's a little, ussy, if you know what I mean, right? So the guys, there's a lot of testosterone, puberty, right? We're all trying to flex, and we're all boys. Like we're at the end of the day, we don't know any better. And there was a time. So what I realized is when I jumped in, for the first 5, 6, 7 seconds, it was all in my mind. It was all in my mind because once I got in, it was over. Isn't it funny how this works? Once I got into that freezing, subpar 20, 30 Fahrenheit water, it was over. Like, then all of a sudden, that pain turned into pleasure. My mind opened up. Every fear in my body dissipated. Does that make sense? I could feel it. I was even opening my eyes underwater, and I would see things and I would feel things. That single moment alone thereafter would shape the rest of my life. And I'm only piecing that together today, like meaning in the current times. That why am I the way I am? Why am I driven the way I am, even at this age, at 49? You can see I put in the work. I'm not anything out of this world where I'm a bodybuilder, but I'm doing great for myself, and that's all I can ask for. Best versions of yourself, that's all you can ask for. Those cold plunges early on in New Zealand grew me a pair of, you know what? And I didn't know that that was the best thing that could happen for me at that time. That's exactly what, us boys needed at that time. Nobody there to feel sorry for us. We would shiver in the cold. We would have our towels, right? Everyone would run after the swimming lessons were over. It wasn't so much about the swimming lessons. It was about how long can you stay in that pool, and will you be the weakest link to hold the entire group up, your class up. And if you do, then you have to stay in there longer, and then you have to do push-ups. You get the blame, and then guess what? This compounds. It doesn't get any better. You will get picked on for the rest of your existence in that school, and the only way out is you fight. The only way out is you fight. And remember, I was a scrawny little kid. I got my ass handed to me more than I handed it, but I had heart. You can't argue that. Until I met my Vietnamese brothers, we tag teamed, and then we started gang fighting, like not like a gang, but like as a group of boys. If you pick on us, we're gonna come for you and attack you. So there was like a line there, and at lunchtime we would just stare down, like we're not alone anymore, mofos. Let's go, right? So I miss those guys. They're my brothers for life. It's like the Breakfast Club nostalgia feeling, right? Don't you forget about. I'll never forget about them. They were my brothers through thick and thin, and I'm a big proponent of brotherhood. I'm a big proponent of helping other men and lifting others up when it's the right time and right situation to do so. I'm a big proponent of that. I'm very empathetic to my brothers because in the last, I'm actually very thankful that I come from that time. The way I grew up is because if I didn't, I wouldn't be instilled with these habits, outside my father. That school, that private, quote unquote, private schooling system really set the tonality for the rest of my life because I had 4 years of that exposure. So essentially, most of my high school was spent in New Zealand. Those were very critical years. I learned how to fight. Of course, I wasn't really lifting any weights. I'm a teenager. We didn't even have any of those. I didn't even know where the gym was, and I couldn't even afford it. I was delivering newspapers as a newspaper boy. But at this age, and I'm walking here like on these trails, it reminds me of the times I used to walk to school, the cold winter days, the cold winter times. You know, so that's what cold plunges taught me in New Zealand and living in New Zealand. And I haven't been back, and I want to go back. That's on my bucket list, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to accomplish it because I'm not really prioritizing it. But I always get this vivid memories of jumping in the pool. I want to visit my old school, Auckland Boys Grammar School. we always used to like peek over into the girls' school, right? And a bunch of us would run to their school and would love them. We would love the girls in their outfits. They look really pretty. Like we would have these little cute crushes on girls, and we'd pick them out. And sometimes we'd have our parents drop us to school early so we could meet with them before school starts. And we all go through the motions, right? So, but I digress. That's a cute story. The tougher story is what I went through as a childhood there, and it builds muscle memory. It builds a competitive spirit. So I thank my father once again, 100 times over. I thank the country of New Zealand, Kiwi, Maoris. The haka. We used to do this dance before rugby games, and if you know, you know. But all that spirit resides in me until today. I'm a Kiwi at heart, and I'm a byproduct of those memories. So the things that you hate, those difficult things that you hate, are actually a blessing in disguise. So embrace it. And I'm not saying I'm going to cold plunge now. I don't feel like doing it. I'm more than disciplined. I have so many protocols, as you see in my channel. I keep myself honest and accountable. Cold plunge is a possibility, but right now it's not a priority. Um, this video definitely went over. I didn't expect it, but hopefully you're smiling and you can relate to some of this if you have been in situations similar. If you're a migrant, a minority, or hey, even if you're a local here in the US, if you can relate, if you have friends in your circle, or if you yourself have traveled abroad, if you're a passport bro, that's all right. And in any walk of life, if this video resonates with you, awesome. Welcome to the channel. And just remember, if nothing else resonated with you in this video, this man is 49 years old and he's walking and talking, inspiring and making a difference. Okay? Walk. Mamba out.